Thank you for joining us today. My name is Ian Benoli. I'm the president of Number Cruncher, the makers of Order Time. And last week, we made an update to our software. We introduced a number of new features, and we also did quite a few fixes as well. If you don't know, this is our help. It's called help.ordertime.com. And the release notes are on this sub-menu here. Each version has its own number. So we're at 1.0.34. Numbers don't really, mean anything. It's just a way of keeping track. And here you can see everything that was added and fixed or improved and then fixed. It's quite a long list. The biggest thing that we've added is the item merge. Now, if you click on here, you'll get kind of the whole kind of description and everything that we're everything regarding the item merge that's important. The item merge can only be done by an admin user because a significant operation that we're doing within the system. And we don't want just anybody doing that. So it has to be an admin. So when you're an admin and you land on any item, you'll see a new button that says merge. Okay. So typically I want to go to the item that I want to remove, or I want to merge into, or I want to kind of remove from the system. And so the item that I want to go to is the item that I want to merge. Okay. So in this particular case, I want to merge this item into another item. And what happens really is as though the item never existed. We maintain all the transactions. For example, this item has one open purchase order. It doesn't really have transactions. I'm going to merge it into this item. Okay. This item has one transaction. It doesn't have anything on order. Okay. So we'll just close that off. And so I'm going to go merge, and I'm just going to pick the other item. Now, there's a couple of important things with regard to this list that I just showed you. Number one, the item types have to be the same. In other words, you have to only merge a part, a type of part with another part, a type of assembly with another assembly, a type of non-inventory with another non-inventory. Now there's, in terms of assemblies and parts, there's two other things. There's one other thing as well. And we also take a look at whether the item has lot or serial numbers enabled. So you have to merge, if one item has lot or serial number enabled, you have to merge that item with another item that also has lot or serial number enabled. If the item the item that you're going to merge away has a bill of materials, we will maintain that bill of materials under the versions in the bill of materials. You'll see that in the versions, they become inactive. But they're still there. You can reactivate them, but they're under the merged item. So I just pick that item and I just click merge. Are you sure? Okay. And in a few seconds, that's it. All right. So there now is that purchase order. There is that adjustment. And as though that item really never existed at all, every reference to that item goes away. The item name, if there was a transaction that had that old item name, it goes away and it gets replaced with the new item name. But the description, the price, everything else kind of stays the same. We don't really touch anything other than lifting that item out of that system, replacing it with the new item. There's a couple of exceptions that I'm going to highlight, is that if the merger and the mergee are both on either an adjustment or a transfer, we we kind of create a secondary adjustment or a transfer with the same dates to put and reflect that. Okay, so the reason is because of our database, you can't have the same item listed twice on an adjustment or a transfer. Okay, so that basically is the merge. It's very effective. One other very important note: this merge only happens in order time. Okay, you have to do the same thing in your accounting, whether you do it in QuickBooks or in Xero. Yeah, I'm not sure about Xero, but in QuickBooks, both the online system and the desktop system, you simply go to that item and change its name to the merge. You go to the mergee and you change the item name to the one you want to merge, and QuickBooks will say, "Do you want to? Are you sure you want to merge these items?" And you do the same. Okay, so that's very important. There is no way for us to do that through the integrated applications. There's no way. So you have to do that manually. Okay, that's an important thing. And frankly, any merging that you do in order time, whether it's a customer, now an item, and a vendor, you should do in order time and then repeat that merger in the accounting system. Those types of things, merging, should be something that you do very infrequently. Now, if you want to avoid having to do this a lot of times, simply do not, in the roles, do not allow people to create new items. Allow someone, a manager or someone like that, to create new items to ensure that your items are set up correctly and that there are no duplicates. I see a lot of duplicated items in a lot of files. All right. So that's kind of your first one. The second one was as a result of the Crunch retreat. I might as well show you a little bit about that now that I have everybody's attention. Crunch retreat. And that's our client retreat that we do every year. We're going to do that again this year in, I think it's early March, where we gather and we learn a lot about order time. We also have some nice food and some nice drinks, and you meet some good people. You meet the fellow order timers. And during this period, we have a vote as to what is, a feature that people want the most. And this one, it was called the report scheduler, which is basically a way to add, to be able to send to you a report, really to send on to any of your users reports on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. Okay, the reports are generated in CSV and they're sent via email. You'll see some kind of limitations here in terms of the size of the report, so keep that in mind when you're sending reports. So again, that's something that the admin will do, because it's, again, a kind of an admin function. There's emails being sent out. We don't want people willy-nilly sending reports to each other. So we basically go to this report schedule list, okay? And here we have the two reports that I have going, but I'm going to go and create a new report. And we can call this, sales report. So this is something that you're just going to make up. The name has to be unique, the description, okay? Now, we need to specify the users that need to get this report. Now, instead of listing every one of these users one by one, we already have such a concept called user group, okay? The user group. So I'm just going to go over here to admin, and we're going to go to profile lists, and in here towards the bottom we have something called user group. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So here I have a CSR group, customer support, and it includes Dean and Carrie. Okay, two of our users. So you just basically click that, and you can press save. Right, so that updates that. And you can create multiple of these user groups. The user groups are also used a lot in the alerts as well. So you may already have a bunch of user groups that you can do. So I'll go ahead and I'll pick the CSR group. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start kind of typing in some of these reports. Now, obviously you can't do a report twice. Okay, can't do a report twice. So you can do, as many reports as you want in here. So, daily sales orders is a very popular one that people create. If I want to remove a report, I just do that. So let's say these two reports. So that basically tells me who's going to get the reports, which reports they're going to get. Now the schedule in terms of the frequency, we have the weekdays, weekly, and monthly. Okay. Now, if you use the recurrence on your activities or your events, you kind of recognize this a little bit. So we run this tool. It's a tool that's on our servers, and we run it 4 times. It's an automated routine. It just runs 4 times a day, every 8 hours. Okay, and except for weekends, I believe. And so you have all these times are in your time. Okay, in the background we put it at kind of a global. It's called the UTC time, but these are reflected in your time. So. Let's say I want to get a weekly report here, and I want to get it by 11 a.m. every Tuesday. Okay? And that's it. I can do it monthly as well. I can do it on, let's say, a specific day of the month, or on the 1st of, or the 2nd, or whatever, something like that. Or I can do on the weekdays. But in this case, I want to do like that. And that's it. That is creating a report, and you will see that that you will get those reports in an email in this case, weekly, monthly. If I wanted to make it inactive, I can just go back in here. I can delete it, or I can make it inactive if I want to kind of suspend that, and that will no longer send the reports unless I activate them. So that is what we call the report sender. This receiver allocation is something that we've kind of thought a lot about, and the idea behind the receiver allocation, which we need to turn on in preferences first. The idea behind the receiver allocation is that once something is received, we want to allocate it to a sales order, or a work order, or a repair order. So that way another order doesn't steal it, doesn't have the chance to steal that inventory. Okay. And so we go ahead into our preferences here. And under receiving and receiving, you would check this little box here. Okay. Now, if you don't have sales order allocations set up, which I do, I enabled allocation, then you will not be able to, you won't see the sales orders. Okay, so it's only for those people you'll see the sales orders only if you're allocating in that regard. The sales orders. We're not creating ship docs at this point like that. There are other receiving and purchasing preferences that you can do, that you can use after creating receivers, create link POs. And this is really, aside from the whole idea of linking and all that, or creating drop ship, that type of thing. It's really something completely different. So I have a purchase order. So here's my purchase order. I have 2 items on that purchase order. It's approved, and I'm ready to receive it. Okay. So we go ahead and we receive that purchase order. So there it is. We do whatever, we add the charges, and we set it to received. Once I set it to received, I'll see a button that says allocate. I click that. All right, this is better. All right, so this is the first line of the sales order. Okay, this is the first line of the sales order. I'll just keep this one open just on the side here so we can see it. So we received 15 units of that. Okay, and we can see here that we have kind of competing interests here. We have this sales order that needs 5 units and this work order that needs. So I can check it like so. Okay, and it'll put in the amount. Now, if I try to do that, it'll give me an error because there's too much allocated here. So I'm going to change this to 10. Okay, so when I change this to 10, I can see that I have available and applied 15. I go to the next line item. Okay, here I have 22. I just check those off. All right, so I go to the next, and this is just the summary. And I go up here and I go process. Okay, that's it. Now, if I go to those sales orders, here's my allocations. Go to the work order. And quantity is allocated. 10 units are allocated. Okay. A very useful tool to get visibility right off at the point of receipt as which items need the stock, and it allows you to kind of do the allocation and spread that inventory that comes from the receivers. Okay, moving right along. I'll just close some of these. So you'll take a look at that. The other thing that there's a bunch of other things, but I wanted to kind of highlight one other thing that you may have seen on this sales order or a new sales order, and something that we've been kind of working with a partner of ours or a customers of ours to be able to add a different way of adding what this is beta, and this is kind of a different way of adding items to an order. You can see it kind of in big bold there. It says catalog. Again, that's a preference, and it's in beta. So you can go into preferences here and go to the sales preference here, go to advanced, and this is it, enable catalog ordering. So once I do that, I click on that, and I'm presented with this. I'm just going to take away this filter here. I'm presented with kind of a long list of items that's in a little bit of a different type of format that you're kind of maybe used to. All right. This list could be shortened if you limit certain items for certain customers. And that's a preference. And also, if you're using price levels and categories and stuff like that, we can limit per item per. I can show you a little bit of that. But basically, this allows you to add multiple items at the same time. So now I'm just kind of adding that, and I'm just going to go add to SO. All right, and there are our new items that we added there. Now, keep in mind that when you're looking at these prices, you see the availability right here. Okay, it's available. These prices are based on the customer pricing levels. Okay, customer pricing levels. So that's kind of the advantage. You see that customer pricing level right away. This will work on a quote as well. So it'll work on a sales order and it'll work on a quote. If your users are using kind of a smaller device, then it'll kind of, you'll be able to look at that and do the same thing. All right, so it kind of shrinks to see that. It has the same type of filters over here. You can reduce that number, to kind of just 5 and then scroll through. It kind of has the same type of, it's pretty quick. And this is beta. I think we should probably add a search feature here as well, that we can search the items as well and filter those. So that would be something that we're going to probably add in the near future. There's some other things here that I want to point out. This other thing over here is called the, some people wanted to kind of customize or have the ability to select where the email is coming from which email is coming from. So the from email. Before, excuse me, when you're sending out emails, it's activities. When you're sending out emails, you have the ability to, so now we have this preference over here. So this is kind of the way it was before, that if you had the default company email and the company info and had this box checked, we by default just send it by the default email. However, we kind of didn't have that option when you're sending emails right from order time. Okay, so right from order time. So I'm going to check this box, and I'm going to go to my company info, and I see here that I have 2 different emails. It doesn't matter what those emails are, but I have both of these populated. This is the email from the company and the main email company email. This is just, sales at or info at Number Cruncher, or, do not reply, whatever. One of those, whatever email that you have, that you wanted to come from the company as opposed to coming from a specific user. So I have both of those enabled. So when I'm on any order or anything like that, okay, it basically is across the board now. When I'm going to send an email, I'm going to see this additional pop-up here, the from, and I can select now which email I'm going to send it from. Everything else stays the same. Everything else stays the same. Now that we're on this topic of emails, I want to point out that, it's very important that you guys do this domain verification. Okay. More and more, people are sending out emails, and AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, for which we send these emails through, require, they do some validations, and if they feel that there's spam coming out, from our system, they'll block a specific domain. So we want to, and we're going to be pushing that everybody should be validating their domain. Okay, so if you're, XYZ numbercruncher.com, everybody has a numbercruncher.com email. You would put the numbercruncher.com and you would validate that. Okay. I believe there's instructions on domain verification, and this is going to become more and more important. And we're going to be urging our customers to go ahead and do that. Some of the things with the rental dashboards, the ability to do selected items. So a lot of people have kind of this flow where they're creating a receiver first, right? And now, of course, you can sort this, all right? So we fixed that as well. You can sort that. It's also when you're creating a ship doc, right? We now added the customer PO, and you can sort that as well. Promise date, sort that. Okay. So in the case where you're doing the receiver, and I'm just going to go next, and I'm going to add the location. And you have this button here that I've enabled. This is also a preference. So if I click on that, I'll see kind of every purchase order that ever had an item, and I can kind of add like so. Right? There's a lot of that, and it'll add the items. Okay, so that's another way of adding, and the good thing about this one, again, you can kind of, it doesn't add everything at the same time. The other one will add all the items at the same shot. This one you can pick and choose which items you're going to add and at which point. Now, if you want to see kind of which purchase order that came from, you click on here, and the column, a little bit obscure, but you go linked number. Okay. And in this case, you'll see both purchase orders right here. They actually come from different purchase orders. Okay. So that's very helpful. You can go under some of the new preferences, like when you're scanning, hear a beep. We've also made a number of different preferences. We've also added the French localization, meaning that if your settings is in French, we use primarily the Quebec French language structure as opposed to the European French. So it's a Canadian French structure. So if you have French as your language settings, you'll see order time represented, with all the captions and everything in French. Of course, we've had Spanish since we've launched this a while ago. So you can see a lot of the things that we've added here. Zapier integration. I don't know if anybody, Wix integration. A couple of things that we've done on the APIs. So one of the things that we've also added on the API was the refunds, the ability to convert a customer into a lead, and just a lot of other improvements. One of the other improvements that we've made now is for the Canadians and the Europeans that have VAT. We're now going to show and calculate the VAT taxes on the purchase orders and the receiving. We've improved the audit trail quite a bit, the ability to send out ACH and send out payments. And so you can go through a number of these different things that we've added and improved upon at your own leisure. At this time, I'm going to open the floor up to some questions. And Michael, you want to take it away?
Yeah, for sure. There's already been some questions. If you want to ask your question, at the bottom right hand of your screen, there's a chat bubble icon. Click that, type in the message, and I'll ask it to Ian. Some of the ones that have already been sent in, let me look at this real quick. Kelsey had asked, if you merge an item away, could I then create the same item again because it's like it never existed? And yes. I already gave the answer. Yeah, you can accidentally create dupes again. What Ian said about roles is important to stop all the duplicates from coming in. Tati had already...
Make sure you merge it in QuickBooks first.
Yeah, for sure. And then Tati had asked, can you send reports to non-users? I explained that currently you can't send to non-users because of security issues. We utilize the roles in order to show users only the reports that they can view. This keeps everything tied into your roles. So more from a security standpoint that non-users can't get it. If you want to send a report to a non-user, you can hit export, get the CSV, and just email it manually. But the report sender, the report scheduler, since it's automated and it's taken into account your security settings, it probably will never be able to send to non-users. We've gotten a few requests about, instead of CSVs, to have it send as a PDF. We do have a feature request in for that, but I know that that would require the tool to do a lot more than what it does now. The tool effectively is pulling it like an export as a CSV, and then it's sending it zipped as in an email. So if
PDF
we,
would be a lot larger,
yeah,
a lot
yeah,
larger.
especially depending on the size of the report, it could be giant, because a PDF is effectively just a different image format. So it could be a very large file, and then depending on if it gets over that maximum limit that we say in the KB article, then the email just wouldn't send at all. So we'll look into it, but it wouldn't be a feature request coming anytime soon. The next question was, let me see. Oh, about domain verification, like he had talked about, there is a KB article for domain verification, and I'll include the link to that in the email that I send afterwards. But at some time in the future, we're definitely going to be reaching out to everyone who has like a business domain to verify, because otherwise, a lot of your emails, if they keep coming from ordertime.com, they might go to spam folders of your customers, and we don't want that to happen, and we don't want it to erode our own domain authority for when we need to send out emails. So that's definitely something coming down the chain. All new customers are going to be recommended during their onboarding to domain verify, like right when they subscribe. Otherwise, they won't have email access. So that's how serious that is. Down the road, everyone's going to need to be domain verified, so that it looks as if everything's coming from your domain, from your company's @whatever.com address. The next question, Ian, this is for you, is can you make catalogs for different categories? Like using the catalog ordering feature.
Yes, you can. Yes, behind the scenes there are two ways to limit that list of categories. One of which is the item customers. So I don't know if anybody uses this preference over here, which is limit the items selling to items and listed customers. Okay, meaning that when each item has a list of customers that, okay, so if I would set that up, let's say I'll go to any old item here. So let's go to this item over here. And here we have the customer aliases. So if I have that checked and I'm doing an order for project one, the customer called project one, I'll only see that item on the catalog. So that's one way of limiting that. The other way of doing that, I think you have to have the B2B enabled, but we might just make the categories visible to everybody, is to use the categories. And the categories, basically, right now it's used on the B2B portal, but the categories allow you to kind of have this hierarchical type of structure. You can import your categories, and you can have items in more than one category. So that is, a setting that we are going to implement as well. Eventually, like I said, this is kind of the first stages of it, but it would be possible. For example, if you have B2B, it definitely would be possible. Okay. But we can probably enable that, so you can test it if you wanted to use that. Enable categories. We can set that setting, and then on each item, you'll add the categories thing, and you'll just say, okay, these are all the categories that this item belongs to. All right, so That's the answer to that.
All right, sounds good. The next question was, can you explain the CNAME requirement in the domain verification? I can kind of explain that. With your domain, like if you have like numbercruncher.com, wherever it's hosted, like if you use hosting such as GoDaddy or AWS or anything, and your website is hosted there, and that's where you've got your domain out of, they have these text records that you have to put in. A CNAME is a type of record that you put in that tells it that it's okay for order time to use this alias, to use it when sending emails. So this is something that if you've got an IT department, you would ask them to put the record in on your domain so that it can be verified. So ask them. If you don't have an IT department, you can send questions into our support. We can try to help you as best as we can. Is there anything you want to add to that, Ian?
Nope, that sounds good.
Okay. Next question is, will there be a tutorial for added ability to import a new BOM version via the BOM Easy import? Okay. So, yeah, Ian, do you want to show them the BOM Easy import, or what do we mean by that?
All right. So the BOM Easy import is basically, it hasn't really changed dramatically. The only thing that if you want to add a new column, I'm not sure if I have something here. Let me just check. Let's check here. But there would be a column that you would add called the name column. Oop. Stop it. So this is the BOM. In this BOM, I've created, this is the name of, so we already have to have the item created, as we would know, and probably by default, when you create a bill of materials, it automatically creates one step. You can populate that. And if I exclude this, this column, the name column, it will add it to the default BOM. When I want to create a new one or add a step to a new one or a component to an existing one, I just include that name column. So in this case, for that particular BOM, I can try it. Let's see if it works. I'm not sure about that. I come in here, I go BOM Easy import, I choose the file. Okay. Okay. I know what the issue is because this one doesn't exist yet. So why don't we create it first? All right. So I'm going to go ahead and create this item. And typically we'd have a default bill of materials. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that import again. All right, so I'm going to this time I'm going to do a save mapping, so I don't have to redo that over and over again. Now, if I want to change my mind, I can delete that. So I'll just show you what I mean by that bomb easy import. So now everything is mapped. Okie doke.
Yep. So what you can see there is he just completely imported a new revision to that bomb by simply adding a new name, and that revision has those 2 new steps and the component items that he wanted from one import with just 2 lines on an Excel file. So it definitely makes it a lot faster, especially if you've got like 20 revisions for a single item and you just want to go to each of them and add another component item, change something, then you can do it in one shot.
Right. Now, also, we have this other tool called replace components. Okay. This is also a good way to add components across the board, replace existing components, remove a components, or copy a bomb. Okay? So take a look at that if you want to manipulate your bombs.
I'm pretty sure we've got a KB for that too. I'll include that on the email that I send after this as well.
Okie dokie.
Are there any other questions? I don't see anything new in the chat box.
It says here, when we add an item, should we start with update?
Oh, yeah. When we update items, should we start with an update in QBO?
No.
I recently got in trouble adding class to items. It wouldn't sync like with mergers.
All right. So here's the rule of thumb. If something is originated and managed in order time, change it in order time and let it synchronize. Because when you change it in QuickBooks, especially when you merge it in QuickBooks and do all sorts of funny things in QuickBooks, we don't have that visibility. We can't really tell what's happened in QuickBooks. We don't have visibility. So we don't have oh, there was an item merge and it's now disappeared. And oh, as far as we're concerned, it's still there. So really you want to do those types of manipulations, originate, edit items, do it in order time. And truth be told, that if you use the import with the ID method, okay, the ID method is basically a way to update a list using the import. Okay, so that is, we have a video here called updating. It says updating the items list with imports, but it works for every single type of list. Let's take a look at that, and it makes it a lot easier. The other way, of course, is through the API or just manually.
I'll make sure to add that video also to the email that I send after, guys.
I think that's about it, Mike.
Yep, looks like that's the last question. If you have any other questions that relate to the webinar, you can always hit us up at support@ordertime.com. If you've got something more in depth, like I saw above, we potentially had someone who had a question that wasn't based on the webinar. Just shoot us a ticket and we'll get it answered. Thank you everyone for attending this afternoon. We're glad to bring all these new features to you from 1034. If you want to check out the feature roadmap at any time, it's right in the help.order time, and you just go to that same section, release notes and troubleshooting, and it's right above the most recent release notes. Also, you can kind of see when certain features were added and go to the specific release notes that usually have help articles to learn how to use that feature. Thank you everyone for attending, and we'll be sending out the email very soon for the Crunch Retreat. If you want to come down to Florida and basically learn everything about order time and hang out with us and go out for great food. So I'll be sending that as a separate email. You can keep checking back on crunchretreat.com. I'll have edits up there this week, actually. So all of that's going to be moving very quickly, very soon. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.